Welcome to the Midday Market Update for December 17th, 2020. My name's Kevin Hill, here as always with Michael Vincent.
You remembered my name.
I did. I guess I haven't been here in a little while, so
you've been out
everything's
for a while.
new to me once more.
Yeah, it is.
But I
new
do know
and
that
exciting.
it's still live and interactive. We're on LinkedIn,
It is.
Facebook, and of course on FreightWaves TV.
Yeah, get your questions and comments in. We'll get them answered, and we'll get you the information you seek. Right?
We will, and we're going to do a mad dash to the holidays today.
Yes, we are.
On this episode of Midday Market Update, we're going to talk about the rush going on all over the place. You have, of course, the holidays, and you have Operation Warp Speed, and we'll have Eric Kulisch, our Air Market Editor, coming on at 12:40 to talk about that. And also Matt Pyatt, CEO of Arrival Logistics, talking about ground transportation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going into the holidays, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a crazy time out there right now, right?
It is.
Volumes changing, rejections going up.
I
We'll
know.
get into all that stuff.
We will. We will get into the freight market data here in a little bit, and then jobless claims are today as well. So we have our lead economist here, Anthony Smith, who will join us to give us the breakdown of what's going on in the job markets as the holidays approach.
Yeah, and then we'll look at sonar markets from the desk. Zach's out today.
Yes, we will. And, of course, we'll have weather with Nick Austin, as always. But let's start off with the news headlines.
Let's do it.
That you can find on FreightWaves.com. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, it goes out right now at noon every day. So sign up for our FreightWaves newsletter at FreightWaves.com. And we'll start off with the headline of Forward Air and technology disruptions affecting Forward Air right now. And Andrew Cox, what do we have with that?
Right, Kevin, we got something on Forward Air, but first I want to welcome you back. It's good to see your smiling face back in the office. This one is first on Forward Air, which operates ground and air services across several different transportation types. They're suffering a significant outage in its technology systems. In a prepared statement, a spokesperson for the company said that on Tuesday, the company experienced an IT security incident that impacted the functionality of certain computer systems. The extent of the technology failure can be seen just by going to the Forward Air website. It's currently down and not operational. In a statement, in the same statement, a company spokesperson also stated they immediately took their systems offline and engaged several third-party experts to assist in conducting an internal investigation. They are working diligently to restore the affected systems and services to bring them back online as soon as possible. In an email to customers, Forward Air said that any shipments within their system that are currently moving will deliver as scheduled. However, there was an exception made for shipments in the Northeast due to the nor'easter going on there now. While the cause is yet to be figured out, it's not disclosed. The wording in the Forward Air note is similar to what other companies have put out when they are under a cyber attack. Additionally, the failure of the website and the fact that a source at the 3PL said that emails to Forward Air were bouncing often are the marks of a cyber attack.
Wow, that's concerning. Are they able to receive additional shipments into their system, or are they just clearing out what they have right now while they're working through this?
I think they're just working through what they have right now. As I said, everything in the system that's moving right now will be delivered on time, but I don't think they're able to accept new entries into the system now.
Yeah, it's something that we've seen quite a bit in 2020. Kicked off with Truck Stop around this time last year as well with a ransomware attack, but a lot of cyber attacks, and hopefully it's not too serious. And kind of thin on details in the first day or two. Companies trying to figure out what is wrong with their systems and problem solve. You're going to find
hopefully they can figure it out. Hopefully they can figure it out quickly, because that revenue flow is stopping right now.
Yes.
Trying to move through it. Good thing you're not part of Operation Warp Speed.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. And before we move to the next headline, Rob Boosie and Nico Brown, hello to both of you guys, and happy holidays to both of you as well. So our next headline, Andrew, I think we have a driver pay increase.
That's right, Kevin. Another day, another major carrier raising wages. This time it's Schneider National. The company announced late yesterday that it will raise driver pay by up to an additional 4 cents per mile beginning January 24th. The pay increase applies to driver associates in both the company's solo and team fleets. The latest increase follows several initiatives totaling nearly $15 million made on behalf of its drivers in 2020. Those efforts included the addition of 6 paid holidays, raising truck speeds from 63 to 65 miles per hour, and a weekly program guaranteeing pay for inexperienced drivers. Schneider Transportation and Logistics head Dave Geyer said, our focus is on making Schneider National the best in the industry. Pay is certainly a component of that, among many other areas that we are continually upgrading. This move by Schneider follows a flurry of recent wage increases by other carriers. Just last week, we saw Frozen Food Express and CR England bump pay by about 25% for its drivers. Covenant and KLLM have also recently implemented their largest pay increases in company history.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday we were talking about the first rate raise late in the summer, saying, is this going to be the kickoff of, bidding war? And
I think it is.
I think we're in it, right?
I think we are in it.
We're in a bidding war now.
Yeah,
right?
we are in a bidding war, and that's one of the alternative data pieces that I've been looking at. You have Class 8 new orders telling you about capacity coming out online.
Sure.
I was looking at driver pay increases, and we are well deep into a bidding war, which will tell you that capacity will expand sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, yeah, if they can get the pipelines open.
Well, that is another thing that's a wild card in this cycle that we didn't see in 2018.
You have those schools choking the pipeline of new drivers coming through, right
Sure.
now. So that's.
But you might encourage people who aren't, who may have been a driver and left to come back in the industry and see those empty trucks. So I think we're well into a bidding war, and that sets the stage for capacity to expand at, I won't say some point in the future, but 3, 6, 9 months, depending on the driver schools. That whatever cycle we're in is going trending toward expanding capacity.
Yeah, you would be demanding it, and we would be doing it. It's just the pipeline is choked right now because of
is choked. Yeah.
Because of COVID and we got to get the vaccines out there and open those pipelines to get these.
We do, yes.
Carriers fitted with drivers. Seat those trucks.
Yeah, but talking about capacity, it's creating disruption for JB Hunt's networks on the rails, right, Andrew?
That's right, Kevin. Container restrictions from the railroads stemming from high levels of congestion at the ports are causing disruption to service for intermodal providers like JB Hunt. Earlier this week, JB issued a service advisory extending through Saturday as its partners BNSF and Norfolk Southern unwind the glut of boxes and trailers backed up at the key intermodal markets of Chicago and Los Angeles. BNSF has limited the number of shipments that can be in-gated to all destinations at terminals in LA and San Bernardino, California. Chicago gate restrictions include most destinations west and south, including Seattle, Portland, Denver, Phoenix, Houston, and Mexico. Norfolk Southern has closed two-way service in Chicago to and from Pittsburgh, Toledo, and Buffalo. The delays and service outages have been brought on by increased online spending as well as the ongoing inventory restocking effort by retailers. Container shipments should be declining at this time of the year as most holiday-related cargo has already been shipped. However, the traditional seasonal slowdown hasn't happened this year, and we've seen intermodal traffic on the rails remaining steady at a high level since mid-September. In fact, total intermodal units climbed 3.6% sequentially to a more than 308,000 in the latest week that ended Saturday, according to the Association of American Railroads. Intermodal traffic was up a staggering 11% year over year in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's not a surprise that the intermodal traffic on the rails is going up, looking at everything else that's going on, right? I mean, you've got severe capacity crunch over the road.
Yeah, you do. You have a severe capacity crunch. You have retailers restocking and selling through. And I want to ask Andrew Cox, who's the retail expert around here, what he's seeing and what he's heard about this as well.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this plays out over the couple weeks after Christmas Day. I'm excited to see where that time sensitivity, what the effect that has on the freight. As the article pointed out, most of that freight, there's typically a slowdown now because everything for the seasonal holidays already been shipped. But we're seeing continuing strong volumes into the holiday season and will likely go throughout the end of the year. So I'm really excited to see where this goes January 1st through the first quarter to see when the time sensitivity, a lot of that retail freight is no longer there, where do volumes go from there?
Yeah, I am too. I think it'll be very interesting. And that's dealing with mostly imports. But there's some trouble on the export side, and
Yeah.
ocean carriers refusing U.S. exports. Is that right, Andrew?
That's right, Kevin. Growing allegations of ocean shippers abandoning U.S. exporters by not providing empty containers for shipments to Asia have led to heightened scrutiny for potential Shipping Act violations. In a letter on Wednesday to the World Shipping Council from the Federal Maritime Commission, FMC Commissioners Carl Bensel and Daniel Maffei said that because of the current surge in containerized imports at the U.S. ports, it is imperative that there be a balance between the carrier's import and export services. They continued by saying, "We want to stress the point that in responding to import cargo challenges, ocean carriers should not lose sight of the common carriage obligations to provide service to U.S. exporters. We appreciate the efforts some carriers have made, but there is more that should be done." Bensel told FreightWaves separately in a letter, told FreightWaves separately that the letter is meant as a shot across the bow to the container lines because of the number of complaints he's receiving each day, which are totaling 4 or 5 every single day. He said the urgency to get empty containers shipped back to China for reloading due to high U.S. import demand has led to the allegations of either unreasonable rates charged to U.S. export shippers by ocean carriers for those empties, or the abandoning of service altogether.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just wonder, what kind of teeth do they have behind this shot across the bow? What can they do about it if it continues?
That's a very good question.
That's my immediate response. Okay, they sent a letter. We don't like this, but what's the ramifications if it continues, right? And it's just a kind of a mess right now, isn't it? I mean, you think, well, container's a container. Send a loaded one over, and then it'll eventually become empty, right?
Eventually, it might not go to the destination where they need empty containers. I think that's the sticky point, right?
That's the issue, right? So
it is.
That trade imbalance comes into play in this instance,
it
right?
does.
I mean, you got to look at the effects of what the trade war has done. There's less exports going into China, where they're trying to get these empties back. They're going into other areas, possibly, or definitely they are. Some of them are diverted to other areas. So you have an even further imbalance. Not just the export imports with actual cargo on them, but the imbalance of where those empties are going.
Where those are going. So we have Andrew Bounds talking about driver pay. Pay is important, but driver quality of life is equally as critical. Couldn't agree with you more. There, Andrew, Nico Brown, they're talking about cyber attacks on the rise, SolarWinds being one of those. Nico and Mark Pena as well over at MW Squared. Let's talk about point of sale, the retail industry, your newsletter, Andrew Cox. The next edition goes out in about 45 minutes, I believe, today. What's going to be in there for those subscribers?
That's right, Kevin. Point of sale comes out on Mondays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. The new edition will come out here, like I said, in about 45 minutes. Today's edition focuses on Amazon Fashion and their new rollout of this Made For You service offering, which right now is just a customizable t-shirt offering. So you go in there and you tell them your height and your weight. You send them 2 pictures of yourself, and then you can pick up from a bunch of different styles, different necklines, different sleeve length, different material, and different color. And the big thing here to take away is that we know that reverse logistics are a big deal. They're a huge deal, and they're a burden and a plague to this industry. And it seems like everybody is really focused on it this time of year. Everybody knows that 2020 has been a year of freight and logistics. It's brought freight and logistics to the forefront. But everybody's focused on that post-transaction process of reverse logistics. They're focusing on making the returns process as seamless as possible, making it as efficient as possible. But very few are focused on the pre-transaction process here, and that's just to minimize the amount of returns that you have in general. So I got some data from SeekXR, who is a provider of software that allows people to take 3D images and have augmented reality for products on their website. They're saying that people using their service are seeing a 25% reduction in returns. Shopify has said they've seen a 40% reduction in returns by using 3D imaging. And I'm just not seeing any reverse logistics provider being able to offer 25 or 40% reductions in reverse logistics costs, which is what these people are being able to offer by focusing on the pre-transaction side of the deal. So Amazon here is playing reverse logistics chess while everybody else is playing checkers. They're thinking 2 steps ahead on how to minimize the amount of returns rather than focus so much on making returns seamless and more efficient.
Yeah, I would. That's exactly right. I mean, you can drive down costs of reverse logistics if people are buying 3 things and returning 2 of them, but the real money saved is just having them order 1 or on average 1.5. Cut that down.
Yeah, you've got to mimic what was key in the brick and mortar sale to not having a return and try and mimic that as best as possible that you can on an e-commerce type of thing, right? So they're satisfied that they've bought the right thing and it actually shows up what they expected.
Yeah. So on apparel, it's fit, and on products, it's being able to go and kind of test it out a little bit. Get the touch and feel of that. Is that what you're finding, Andrew?
Yeah, Amazon's not the only ones trying to do this. You look at Home Depot, they've added an augmented reality feature about 3 months before the pandemic, which allows you to test out what paint colors and wallpapers will look in your house, or even what some pieces of furniture will look in your living room. Mm-hmm. So that's a great way to increase conversion, but also decrease the amount of returns. Sephora does the same thing with makeup. People can try on makeup with augmented reality. Warby Parker does something similar with glasses. All of these are efforts to reduce the amount of returns and using technology to reduce the amount of returns rather than focusing on that post-transaction side. And I think it's a great deal. And I know that reverse logistics are a huge cost to this industry, and I just hope and I think people will follow suit. I think if anybody can cause a paradigm shift in this, it is Amazon. I just hope that we spend as much time focusing on the pre-transaction part of the process as we are focusing on the post-transaction process.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And thank you, Andrew. If you're not a subscriber to Point of Sale, Andrew's newsletter here at FreightWaves, it's a free subscription. How do you go sign up, Andrew?
FreightWaves.com/communities. You can sign up there. You can get all 3 of our newsletters. You can get Point of Sale, Transmission, or the Stock Out. Mine is Point of Sale. Just go there and sign up.
Thank you very much, Andrew. If you're not a subscriber to the FreightWaves newsletter that gives you all the day's top headlines at 12 p.m. every day Eastern Time, just go to FreightWaves.com and sign up. Yeah,
absolutely. Do it right now.
Even you can do it, Michael.
I don't know. I don't know about that. But Andrew makes a solid point about he's hopeful that people make this paradigm shift to looking at solving the returns from the front end, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot to think about there, right? Because it causes not only losses in revenue for companies, right? But it's not really good for carbon footprint and
it's not and just trying to
waste
drive down,
and waste and all that kind of stuff. It's not really good for the circular economy.
Yeah, just trying to drive down reverse logistics costs. It kind of still incentivizes that I'll say bad consumer behavior that you want to correct. You don't want over ordering and the returns. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity costs sunk in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I hear there's a snowstorm up in the Northeast.
I heard about that. Couple inches of snow?
Yeah, Kingston told me, or Greg Miller told me he's got 12 inches up in New York City. Brian Strait has 16 inches up in Connecticut. They're both writers here at FreightWaves. Nick Austin is here with the weather, though. What are we looking at?
There's some big snowfalls. It doesn't really sound like it. I mean, New York, a foot of snow. But for December pre-Christmas snow, this has been a pretty big deal. But fellas, some other parts of New York State, like Binghamton and a few other areas, have seen more than 40 inches of snow just from this storm when it started yesterday afternoon. So in about the last 24 hours or so. So it's been a big storm. Some other areas have seen easily 2 to 3 feet. It's moving up into New England, and it's going to keep snowing across upstate New York and New England for the rest of the day. So it's not over yet. It'll gradually fade out through the afternoon and into the evening. But even in areas where the snow has been tapering off in parts of western New York, Pennsylvania, including Philly, and into parts of New Jersey, the wind is still going to be really strong. Where it is snowing still, it's going to be really strong as far as the wind. So there's going to be blowing snow out there. There have been a lot of problems on interstates and other highways from New York State into parts of New England with tractor-trailer wrecks, a lot of other accidents out there as well with some folks that are trying to brave the conditions out there on the roads. United Airlines, Delta Airlines, I believe, still have restrictions out there on specialized cargo coming in and out of a lot of the major airports up in the Northeast, at least until further notice. Not a lot of power outages, not a lot of widespread major power outages. That's the one kind of silver lining and good news about this storm so far. But we could see some power outages through the rest of the day because the winds are going to keep up. Maybe a little bit of coastal flooding in Long Island and in New England because of the winds. So just all kinds of ground and air transportation problems, probably even just delays loading and unloading at ports up there in the region as well. So this is going to continue through the rest of today, but because there will be power outages and because of just poor road conditions, the impacts of the storm are going to last past tonight, even after the storm is gone. So even into tomorrow, maybe the weekend as well, there's still going to be some issues up there. So for this time of the year, certainly a pretty major storm. Hopefully it'll be a while before they get another one like this. But coming up later in the show, we'll have another update on the storm. And we're also going to talk about some of the scariest bridges in the United States for truckers out there. A lot of them either have really, really just tight spaces. Some of them are haunted, according to some drivers and other folks out there. So we'll talk about that. There's an article about it on the website, and we'll discuss that a little bit more later.
That sounds great. And Andrew Bounds says that he woke up to a couple inches of solid ice in the Baltimore area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask that if there wasn't a significant icing event along with the snow.
Yeah, I guess there is on the southern part of it.
The southern
Right,
part
Nick?
of the storm, down in Baltimore, maybe a few spots near Washington, but mostly in the southern Appalachians and some of those high elevations down in parts of North Carolina and Virginia did have some pretty major icing. So it was kind of on that southern end of the storm, but for the most part, just about everywhere else that's gotten hit has had the snowfall. It's been mostly snow, but in some areas it's been a heavy wet snow, which is why there are some roads where there's either power lines or trees down on the ground and power outages because of that, along with the wind. So just overall a pretty big mess. It's going to take a little while to kind of clean up and dig out of this one, guys.
It sounds that way. Thank you for that weather update, Nick, and can't wait to hear about the haunted bridges coming up at the end of the hour.
What would it be like on a haunted bridge?
Well, I guess it would be ghosts.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
hitchhiking or something? I don't.
It could be. You know what? We'll find out. We will find out here in about 20, 25 minutes, definitely.
A ghost head-on collision?
I know. So you were on FreightWaves Now today.
I was.
Or this morning.
Yeah.
What did you talk about?
Oh, well, just, going into this holiday season, what is happening there with the, volumes are starting to come down as we normally see.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have it up on my computer. I don't know if we can get it on the screen or not, but I can show a couple of these things. But we're seeing that normal kind of trough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of it starting to come down, heading the volumes coming down.
Yeah.
But, I mean, still significantly higher,
Yes.
right? It's not like things are loosening, and compounded with the already tight is the fact that you've got drivers coming offline, right, as they normally do.
Yep.
And now we've creeped back up almost to 26% up on tender rejection rates. And it's all modes. All modes are going back up, obviously, as drivers are coming off.
There we go.
They've got us up there right now. So you're looking at the Blue Mountain is this year, and then orange is 18 and green is 19. In case you didn't know that it's like significantly higher than before.
Yeah.
But if I pull this out and show this as a full year, you'll see where this seasonal trend is going to take us. And it's not crazy to think that we're going to be up in this 30 area.
It's not crazy. It's certainly the
pretty likely.
The holidays, vacations, getting drivers back home, and kind of picking routes that do that, it will create even extra tight capacity over the next week or so.
It is, and here, I mean, here's the thing: going past Christmas is looking at the ocean shipments, right? I've got that pulled up right now. I don't know if you can show that or not, but there, we talk to different people and experts on ocean, and past Q1 into Q2 before things start to slow down. A significant, as we just saw with the rail and intermodal,
yes.
Imports are a huge volume driver for truckload. Over the road, as well as the intermodal. And you can see through here that, 7 days out through Christmas, this is a time where you normally see this start to come down. It's not. it just continues to go up and be significantly higher than the previous year. So that pressure at the ports is going to continue.
Yeah, it's definitely going to continue. One of the narratives built around this, it's Thursday morning, jobless claims. Initial jobless claims are out. It's not really good news as coronavirus cases spike and hospitalizations spike.
Yeah.
And we have Anthony Smith right now, our lead economist, to tell us what they are and what they mean.
That's right, Kevin. So we have the jobless claims number that just came in this morning. And unfortunately, just as you mentioned, we saw another increase. And so this is a consecutive increase on a week-to-week basis, as this number is released on a weekly basis, nearing 900,000. This is a number that has not been seen since early September. So this is very critical here. We're starting to see the jobless claims number go in the opposite direction that we wanted after it's already been struggling to have any kind of downward momentum. I mean, jobs claims are really struggling to fall below that 700,000 mark, and now we're starting to see increases once more. This kind of shows some of the fragility within the labor market and really the toll that COVID-19 is having throughout the country.
Wow. Are we seeing any specific sectors hit harder than others? I imagine service is still bad.
Exactly right, Vincent. Services are bad, especially for restaurants. We're seeing a very piecemeal approach. We're looking at the impacts throughout the country, of course. Throughout California, Kevin Hill, you can talk to this. Of course, you just got back some of the impacts and shutdowns within that state. Places in New York really kind of shutting down things again, especially on restaurants and outdoor eating and things like that. So we're definitely starting to see some really hard-hit areas. On the other side, we had job openings report that came out not too long ago and hires, and saw just very telling about the state of the current economy and the state of freight industry. We saw hires were very high substantially within transportation and warehousing. And this is going to be a trend that's likely going to sleep into 2021. We're looking at overall hiring and employment trends, just as it's going to become more and more important for e-commerce and transportation of goods throughout the country.
Yeah, I will say I was in California for about 3 weeks, and in Palm Springs, Southern California, and about a week before I left, so not this last Sunday, but the week before Sunday, it went on lockdown. But basically, the whole state's on lockdown again. Yeah. No dining whatsoever, outside, inside, nail salons, hair stylists, the whole gamut is pretty well locked down again. Because of cases, and I think it's mostly the metric is ICU beds in the state hospitals, whatever area you're at. So I can imagine that there's a lot of unemployment, jobless claims filed in the last week or so.
Yeah, wow, got to be driving
Definitely.
it. What about one of the things that would keep driving things forward and freight forward would be stimulus. Are there talks about that, Anthony? What's the word on that?
That's exactly right, Michael Vincent. So stimulus is back in the news once again. It never really left, but it always kind of cycles back and forth from the news cycle. And there isn't a deadline approaching. That's going to be Friday. And so there is a bill that's being proposed and it's going to be taken to Congress. And there is some hope, but again, we can't rely on any kind of stimulus coming in. And of course, I'm not here to be your financial advisors for those of you who are watching, but do not plan on any kind of stimulus and do not plan your life around anything that the government's going to do, but being ensured that you are able to take care of yourself with or without any kind of stimulus. That's going to be first and foremost. Of course, this news may be a little bit too late of advice for you now, but for those that may be impacted by the coronavirus from an employment standpoint. But when looking at the stimulus bill, there is something that could be pushed through by Friday. And if it is passed by that deadline, talks say that it should be a very rapid release that could hit before Christmas. Now, if this gets shot down once more, it's unlikely that we'll see anything kind of happening until maybe late January, early February when it comes to stimulus. This current one is looking like it might be a $600 initial check with an additional $300 on initial jobs claims benefits for this package.
So, Anthony, before you leave, the retail sales numbers for November came out. There's a slight dip. What does this tell you?
That's right, Kevin. And so this is something that we expected, right? When we talked about retail sales moving forward, just last week on last Midday Market update, I think we talked about how retail sales are decelerating, and we wouldn't be surprised if they continue to decelerate throughout the year, and that's exactly what they're doing. When looking at overall retail sales, we did see that downward movement on a month-to-month basis, but the thing that I mentioned, and I still going to mention, is that there's going to be bright spots, particularly e-commerce stores of non-store retail sales, and of course, building product materials. And so those remain to be strong stays within overall retail sales. For example, e-commerce online sales have been about roughly over 30% above year-ago levels. And so this is a trend that's likely going to continue and persist into 2021 while the other segments of retail sales continue to decline. But again, that's going to have some impact between any kind of COVID relief and benefits from the federal government here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Those updates on initial jobless claims and the economy. Anthony Smith, and we will catch you on Tuesday on the Midday Market Update to get some more economic data.
Yep. Hopefully we'll have some good news.
Hopefully we will. Hopefully we will. It's a mad dash to the holidays right now.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is.
Yeah, as always this year. Well, if this happens, then that'll happen.
Yeah.
There's always this, and there are bigger ifs than previously, right?
Yeah. So we were just talking about, demand and capacity and kind of where we might be in the cycle, talking about pay raises. So let's bring on Matt Pyatt, the CEO of Arrive Logistics, to give us his perspectives of what he's seen in the freight markets himself. How are you doing today, Matt?
Hey, guys. Hey, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can, yes.
Coming through loud and clear, man. Thanks for being on.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to join the show. I was just listening to the previous part of the segment, and I'm like, I read a lot of this in our market update every week. I just got out of a market update meeting about an hour ago. I'm like, man, these are all the same stats that we're looking at. So perfect timing.
Yeah, excellent. So, Matt, a little background and a little bit about Arrive Logistics before we jump into things, if you would.
Yeah, I'm Matt Pyatt. I'm CEO and co-founder of Arrive Logistics. We're a leading freight broker based out of Austin, Texas. We've been around since 2014. We've had pretty strong growth to date. We have an office in Chicago, Chattanooga, with right in your guys' backyard, and then, like I said, our headquarters are in Austin, Texas. So, super excited to join you guys. We like to think that we're pretty strong on the market, and definitely keep our eyes peeled to everything going on. We use your guys' sonar almost every single day. So, hopefully, I can bring some insights that you guys don't already have.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I'm sure you will too. Well, Matt, let's start off with your insights. What are you seeing in the freight markets right now? It's a mad dash of the holidays right now. What's changing? What's staying the same? Where do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw significant tightening. It started in June. It's continued to get tighter and tighter from a capacity standpoint. I do think we saw a peak in late November. It's definitely softened since then. Obviously, it's relative. It's not like like it was in April. It's still really tight out there from a capacity standpoint. Rates are still pretty high and climbing. But I think that we'll start to see it pick up today, going in through the rest of the holiday season. I don't think the snowstorm in the Northeast is going to, help from a rates perspective from a shipper's end. And like you guys were alluded, a lot of people are getting home. A lot of people are taking time off around the holiday. But I do think that there's just 1,000 different factors that we have to look at as we look into Q1. When I was presenting to our board recently, we were just like, okay, what are the 20 things that can, affect the capacity and really drive pricing? And there's just so much volatility right now that it's almost anyone's guess, how it's going to come. But, where we're looking at is we do think that rates will come down slightly from where they are in Q4 and Q1, but on a year-over-year basis, significantly, still going to be up. And we do believe rates will be up on a year-over-year basis, through the beginning of Q3 of next year. But, when you look at Q3 or Q4, if you look at the DAT spot price index, I mean, you're in the 220s to 230s plus fuel. It's hard to imagine it stays that inflated for more than another, couple of weeks. And if it does, it's going to be a really interesting bid season out there for customers and brokers that might have, messed up their pricing exercises.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a question I was going to ask is what are you seeing in the bid season? Are you seeing pressure on rates up or down or even, or what do you think those shippers are going to do, or what are you hearing from them? Are they looking to maybe accept those higher rates a little bit more to secure capacity or keep it on the forefront? We've had several people talking about, given that kind of guaranteed rate or guaranteed margin to try and secure or keep secured capacity from jumping.
It's a good question, but I think it's almost it's customer by customer, right? Everyone's got a different strategy. I think what you're seeing is a lot of mini bids. You're seeing a lot of short-term, pricing environments. So let's say, hey, these prices are good through Q1, and then we're going to do another event. I do think you see a lot of shippers pushing off their bids that were supposed to go live. They've been kind of buying some more time. We're seeing a lot of shippers doing multiple rounds that typically did one round. So I think that every single customer is having a different pricing strategy. But what we're looking at is that we're confident that rates will be down next year from a Q4 basis. Like, let's not talk about all of 2020. Let's talk about just from a Q4 rate environment. We're pretty confident that we're pricing for significant reduction there. But however, when you look at our rate guidance, which we haven't put out yet, but we think that the average rate per mile in the spot environment on the DAT index will be about 204 plus fuel as an average throughout the 12 months of 2021, which is 10 to 12% down from the peak of Q4, but significantly higher than the average of 2021, and also the highest data point we've ever seen. I mean, the highest we saw before Q4 was June of 2018, I think, at 205 a mile. So I think that the environment's going to be really interesting next year. Capacity is still going to be expensive, but I think it's going to be more readily available than it was in Q4.
Yeah, I think a big driver and a big driver that we see here is retail dry van type of traffic. If we switch over to the industrials and look at the specialized or open deck flatbed type of market, what is the health of the flatbed market right now?
Yeah, we do some flatbed, and I can't speak exactly to that environment right now, but I do think that the biggest driver that's going to really drive the flatbed market is going to be, what do we do around infrastructure? I know we keep talking about $1 trillion package, and I think that could be really interesting to see how that really affects the market in the flatbed world.
Yeah, it will be interesting. Looking through into Q1 and beyond, we're looking at imports driving still higher, very, very, very strong right now, and many talking about Q2 way past the Lunar New Year before we start to see that even softening, if it does, right? I mean, they're looking for it to keep going. Stimulus package comes out. What are you looking at that you think that there's going to be this much obviously a drop in rates from Q4, and do you see upward pressure after that, or it's anybody's guess after that, depending on what happens with the stimulus, et cetera?
Yeah, so fair question. So when I say rates will be down, I don't mean they're going to be down significantly, right? So I'm using it as a barometer from the high, right? I think you can look at it as like a stair step down. I do believe that the market's going to continue to be very tight in Q1. It's going to be, in my opinion, in our opinion, based on kind of what we're looking at, it will be slightly looser, slightly less expensive in Q1. And then I think you're going to see the seasonal tightness, right? So I think you're going to see tightening, especially in June and July next year. I think there's going to be significant tightening from what we've seen off of a Q1 basis. I think you'll see the traditional Q3, and then I think you'll see tightening back into Q4 of next year. And I just think of it as a normalized year with seasonal tightening at a higher price point.
So we have Operation Warp Speed rolling out right now, full swing. Projections are by mid next year that we're going to see somewhat of herd immunity. It could be herd mentality too as well. I don't know.
We see that all the time.
You do see it all the time. What kind of wild card could that throw into the freight markets for certainly the back half of next year?
So I actually, first and foremost, I cannot wait for that to get, delivered to the masses. Being a transportation provider, being a freight broker where culture is so important, not being in the office has been a real struggle. One of the biggest reasons people come to work at Arrive is, peer relationships, management relationships. They really enjoy working with each other. So it's been really tough to be out of the office. But, my 2 cents is, and then the one question I'd love to hear your guys' input is, what happens with, the service industry? Do people start to spend more money on travel and hospitality and restaurants and entertainment? And does that affect the durable goods spending? And was the durable goods increase in spending a pull forward, or was it a sustainable increase in durable goods? Was that shift actually permanent? So I think there's a lot to be seen. I think that with the widespread vaccine, you will see, a pretty full recovery in the travel and entertainment industry by the back half of next year. And as we know, that does not drive freight. So it will be interesting to see, there's a finite number of dollars to be spent. How does that allocation of dollars drive freight at the back half of next year?
Yeah, that mix shift is going to be very interesting to see, because travel entertainment will come back. What will that do to durable goods, hard goods that get trucked around? It's a question that we ask ourselves all the time.
Yeah,
we're keeping an eye on.
I think when you look at what occurred at the latter part of the summer into the fall, when these vaccines get out there and it proves to be successful, right? Hopefully,
yes.
Let us pray. And we start to see that the cases come down and everything. I think that travel and that entertainment spend dollar comes back with a vengeance.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But to your point, I kind of feel like a lot of the durable goods spending will become a pull forward because of that event, right? It's kind of one of those things that we'll look back and say it was a pull forward, but if, stimulus comes and we're still under lockdown, people still continue to buy those type of things, but it will be a shift. It remains, I think the biggest question is how much of the shift to e-commerce stays there, right? For some of those disruptions.
Yeah, is that a question, or is that a long-term question that we'll be answering in 12 months?
I think we're going to have to wait unless you got a crystal ball there. But I'd love to hear your input on that.
I wish.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be a lot happier if he had that crystal ball and could answer that question.
I think we all would be, wouldn't we? we definitely would.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, Matt. And how do our viewers reach out and learn more about yourself and Arrive Logistics?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. I think the easiest place to locate us is either on LinkedIn or on, arrivelogistics.com. There's, multiple ways to get a hold of us. One of the things that you'll see on LinkedIn is our market update that we send out. It's really great content. Subscribe to that. We spend a lot of time analyzing it, and it's about 20 pages of good information. So that'd be a great way to connect.
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
So let's talk a little bit about Operation Warp Speed and what's going on with that. And Eric Kulisch, our Air Cargo Markets editor, has been following it really closely. He's been publishing multiple articles per day, giving us all updates. Hi, Eric. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Thank you for coming on. So let's get into it. Where are we at with Operation Warp Speed? What kind of stage? I know that we've seen frontline workers, nurses receiving vaccine shots in the last couple of days. What's the progress?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. One of the greatest logistical operations, in human history, probably, to get this out in such a short time. But everything looks to be going very smoothly. You've got FedEx and UPS executing on the deliveries for the Pfizer vaccine. And even though things are going, things are clicking well, there's still some glitches. It's interesting. We've got the weather to worry about in the Northeast, so there's concerns about whether they can hit all their drop spots today and tomorrow. There's little address glitches sometimes in Operation Warp Speed's control tower, where you might put in an address in Fort Lauderdale and use FT instead of FORT in spelling, and that could delay. And then interestingly, I'm reporting today that Operation Warp Speed pulled back 4 shipments of Pfizer boxes because the temperature probes inside showed a temperature excursion or the temperature actually getting colder than sitting in the normal range. So they pulled them back, told the UPS or FedEx driver to, make a U-turn, bring them back, and they sent replacements to make sure there wasn't any problem with them. So, it's a huge operation. And then we got the Moderna vaccine about to be approved maybe as soon as tomorrow. And they'll start on a similar shipping pattern as they did last week with the Pfizer. They'll start packing them on Saturday, start shipping them out on Sunday, start delivering them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they're going to 5 times as many drop spots in the initial round, about 3,300 spots instead of 600 for the Pfizer drug in the first week.
Is that because of the parameters of needed for the drug storage and stuff, that there will be more drop zones for the Moderna?
I don't think it's has to do with that, although soon they'll be able to start going to more rural areas that don't have the deep freezers. So that's where the Moderna will be especially helpful, because they can store it in lower temperatures and even normal refrigerators. I think it has more to do with Pfizer was out of the blocks first, and they had to just draw a cutoff line a few weeks ago on planning purposes. Hey, and they didn't want to estimate how much was going to be had been produced by that point. So they just, and Moderna's been producing since then, so they had more time to build up a stockpile. So I think that was part of it.
So when we look at the air cargo market, we have Pfizer rolling out. And kind of the first part of the question is, how's that affected the air cargo market? With Moderna on the eve of coming out as well, how will that affect, for further effect, the air market?
I think right now the impact is very slight, because especially with the Pfizer shipments, they were very controlled, and it's a phased approach. So each week they'll be going to more locations, increasing the tempo and the amount of product that goes out as production increases, and they get more confidence in the system and the deliveries, learn some lessons, and they keep releasing more and more. So initially, and most of this is going in the FedEx and UPS air network and then by ground. So initially, I don't think there's that much volume these first couple weeks. That'll pick up over time. And you're even seeing some outsourcing by FedEx and UPS to some ground transportation companies like Boyle Transportation, but also airlines like American Airlines and Delta this week carried some shipments. So I think, it'll be into next year when it starts to ramp up more globally, internationally, and the volumes start to really increase. You might see some bumping of cargo, but remember, most of this is going to be on their express networks and not so much on their regular freight networks. So we'll just have to see, but the impact there could be some. It's already a very tight air cargo market, as you know, so any little extra volume could impact other shippers.
So when we're looking at this Moderna coming online, right? Let's talk a little bit about who are the essential workers that are going to be getting this, and with the Moderna coming online, does that change that kind of timeline for those? Do you have any insight on that?
Well, as you know, frontline medical workers and long-term healthcare facilities are getting it first, and nursing homes will start getting this weekend some of the new shipments. So those will be new locations. The next phase is other types of what are deemed essential workers, law enforcement, emergency responders. But it's interesting, lots of the freight transportation groups are, clamoring to be included in that. Last week, the American Trucking Associations and the tank truck carriers and the pilots and even the air freight forwarders are all lobbying the Congress and the CDC and state medical directors to, get their workers, front of the line access after the healthcare workers. So we'll have to see how that goes. But there's just a whole trickle effect once this was released. The FAA gave clearance to the pilots now to take the drug. They didn't have to wait for some medical process or certification, so that'll speed things up. Flights that carry a coronavirus vaccine will get priority landing spots from the FAA, and they've increased the dry ice amount that they're letting the planes fly with. But they're warning airlines, hey, be careful because the dry ice can be dangerous too much, and you can, gas out the crew and asphyxiate them potentially.
That really wouldn't be good.
No.
Definitely. Speaking about dry ice, I mean, we've heard for a couple months now about the supply of dry ice. How is the supply and the supply chain for dry ice playing out so far?
Right. So as you know, the Pfizer drug really needs to be kept at extreme sub-zero temperatures, and so it requires a lot of dry ice in the supply chain for storage and for transportation in containers. The Moderna drug also is good to pretty cold temperatures, -20, not as much as the Pfizer, but so there was immediate concerns like, is there enough production capacities? There's so much demand, and are some of the feedstocks for making the carbon dioxide, which is dry ice is basically a solid form of carbon dioxide. So was there enough feedstock for that? But it turns out lately we're hearing from sources, including FedEx and UPS, that it seems like the third-party vendors have enough production capacity. FedEx and UPS even invested in equipment, so they're making it too. And so right now, the concerns seem to be minimized, at least for several months.
Well,
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. Let's talk about e-commerce for just a second, and how's that outlook? How's that playing out in the air cargo market, and what does 2021 look like, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, as you guys were just talking about with your previous guests and others, the e-commerce market is just it's exploding. It's a juggernaut. I think there's 30% increase for e-commerce just in the holiday sales period, or even more than that. So the year-over-year growth is huge, and that's playing into air cargo just as it is in ocean. In addition to the PPE shipments, it's really increasing the volumes. Air charter companies are booked into next year. So and then the e-commerce is also triggering express carriers like DHL, FedEx, and others to get into more aircraft. You're seeing more companies investing in converted passenger aircraft to increase their volume down. It takes a while to convert an aircraft, but that'll increase their capacity long term.
Thank you very much for your insights today, Eric.
Thank you,
And how does our audience reach out and contact you directly for story ideas, for sourcing information?
Yeah, just find my stories on FreightWaves or AmericanShipper.com. I have contact information at the bottom in my masthead, or sometimes at the bottom of the story. And I'm also on Twitter at Eric Reports.
Great. Thank you very much, Eric, for your insights today.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, happy holidays to you too, Eric. I imagine the airlines are kind of in this take out seats, don't take out seats, vaccines coming, we're going to need those seats soon. Because I'm sure they're banking on travel coming back with a vengeance. They
are. It's been pretty steady. Thanksgiving, you saw an uptick in travel numbers, but the percentage 2020 over 2019 has remained very stable at between 33 and 40%.
So 33 to 40% of last year's volume of travelers?
Yes.
Okay.
Or this year's volume from last year.
Yeah. That's
and Thanksgiving, you're going to see a higher total number. I know it's not good, but I mean, with a vaccine, it could double, because we're talking about the explosion of travel. I think the explosion of travel, it's like a pendulum with all economics, right? It kind of overcorrects, and I think that travel and entertainment will overcorrect.
Oh yeah, it absolutely will.
Yeah, it definitely will.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, just look at what happened earlier in the fall.
Yeah.
Started to go down, everybody went up. Boom.
Yeah, everyone.
This time we have the vaccine, so hopefully it works, and everybody. And
on the durable goods side, people were at home, and they they went out and built swing hinge.
That's right. Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And when they travel, they're probably going to fly because there's all those scary bridges out there that are haunted.
I know,
and stuff.
right? Yeah, let's talk about some haunted bridges with Nick Austin. What do we have?
Well, there's the Huey P. Long Bridge down in Louisiana, that's in the Baton Rouge area. So
that
I know
is
there's lots of haunted
I've
stuff.
been on that. There's ghosts all over that thing.
That's what a lot of drivers say, and a lot of folks out there. And it's Louisiana, so there's a lot of haunted places down there. But there's also the Sunshine Skyway Bridge on the lower part of Tampa Bay. There were a couple of major accidents back in 1980 where one of them, a cargo ship, actually struck the bridge, and a Greyhound bus and several cars went plunging into the water. Unfortunately, 35 people died. So drivers have reported, even though there's a new bridge that has replaced it, have reported seeing ghosts. Or part of the old bridge is now a fishing pier, and people have reported hearing weird noises and seeing ghosts on that part of the old bridge. So kind of spooky there. But some of those bridges and others, and there's an article on the website right now, FreightWaves.com. Some bridges out there are just really scary for drivers, especially on windy days, just because of the design of the bridge. Some of them have fairly narrow lanes still and tight spaces, or lack of even guardrails or other safety features here and there, because they're kind of older bridges and just haven't had makeovers yet and brought them into kind of modern times. So one of them is, well, I mentioned those two already, the one in Louisiana, and then the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel is one of them. And then there's one that spans the Columbia River, bridging Washington and Oregon, which is the Astoria-Megler Bridge, which is another one out there that a lot of drivers just say they're sometimes scared to drive over it on windy days. Even when the winds are only maybe 30, 40 miles an hour, it can cause trouble.
And the title of the article is America's Scariest Bridges for Truckers, and you can Google that. I am just glad that Nick Austin didn't say the haunted bridge was the pedestrian bridge right over here. Over the Tennessee River, right?
Tennessee River.
I walk across that constantly, so I've never seen any ghosts, so which is good. What's the last outlook for weather kind of over the weekend, Nick?
Well, of course, we're still dealing with the nor'easter today. Parts of upstate New York, even Long Island, still seeing snowfall all the way up into New England. And it's probably going to take at least a couple of days for folks to dig out in some areas, because parts of upstate New York around Bimington and some other areas have seen 3 to 4 feet of snowfall. And temperatures day and night, all the way through Saturday night, are going to stay below freezing. So it's going to take a while to dig out. There's going to be just more transportation and freight flow problems the rest of today and probably into Friday, maybe even part of the weekend as well. And for the next several days, on and off, there's going to be periods of heavy mountain snow and valley rain and possible flooding in parts of the northwestern United States, with some flooding maybe from Seattle down to Portland here and there at times, and maybe some strong winds along with the heavy snow in some of the mountains of the Cascades and the Rockies. So that's going to be kind of just periodically, but it's going to happen in waves over the next week at least. So they're going to be dealing with all that out there.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that update,
Thank you, Nick. Have you ever driven across that Sunshine Skyway down there in Tampa, St. Pete?
No, I haven't.
It's a little disconcerting because the supports are in the middle. Not on,
really?
Yeah.
I have been over the Huey P. Long, and that's
me too.
It's kind of a strange bridge.
Oh yeah,
as
absolutely
well.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is. I drove over the one out in Seattle. Remember the one, the old, where they show the it just blowing apart because of the wind? Mm-hmm. You ever see that? I mean, years and years and years ago. But I've driven across the one that bridge a couple. I mean, obviously the replacement one, but that was.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, where it's just the wind just starts and it's going, and cars are flipping off of it, and it just falls apart.
Yeah, no, that's never good.
No, it isn't.
I know. So let's, so we did What the Truck on Monday. It was a holiday special.
It was a holiday special.
Should I start calling you Buddy? Dinner with Santa Claus, and we have Buddy the Elf right here.
Yeah. Well, the comments were, it's hard to take you seriously when you're dressed like an elf. Rhonda Bamboza Zimmerman was giving me a little flack on that. I threatened to show him my tights, but it didn't happen.
And then yesterday, Put That Coffee Down, the Freight Sales podcast.
Yeah, how was that?
It was great. Special co-host, Blythe Brumleve. from Freight School Playbook and Digital Dispatch was on helping me co-host, and we had our own Emily Zink come in and talk about emotional intelligence in sales, and she also gave some good
emotional
tips.
Intelligence.
Yeah, emotional.
Okay.
Yes, emotional intelligence in sales, and she also gives some really good tips on how to do great video at home. Right? If you're on Zoom calls, oh yeah. So
absolutely.
I think I'm going to snip that out and post it out on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
And
And day before yesterday, we had the North American Supply Chain Summit.
Yes, we did last week. It's all on demand on FreightWaves TV and FreightCast. You can get this show and all of our others on podcast form at FreightCast.